Hey guys, this is another attempt of me trying to film this, so see if I can do it this time. Alright, so March 5th, 2013 was when my grandmother passed away, and there's a lot of detail to the story that in this video I'm not going to go into. It's just going to go and see where I end up. Say kind of too much. Alright, I'm sorry. So, I wrote this thing because I was having trouble finding what I wanted to say. And I'm just going to kind of read this and we're just going to see how this goes. Kind of explain some things. So, March 5th, 2013 was the day we lost an amazing soul, but having gained so much. I can't say that I 100% knew the true person that my Mema was. I only saw what was left of her as Alzheimer's and dementia started taking away who she was a little more every day. Even as her memory and thoughts were being stolen from her, she still kept one thing, a pure and true heart, to always make sure others were happy and living the best life they could be. When she would hear voices or see people that weren't really there, she would still do everything she could for them. She would give their children candy. She gave the entire family her room right across from where I used to sleep, so I would stay quiet at night so I wouldn't wake them up. When they began stealing things from her, she would tell them they had to stop or they would have to leave, but I knew that was an empty threat. She started hiding things that were valuable to her, but then would forget where she had put it. In the end, the family ended up moving out and the father was going with his family to become a pastor of a church. Even with the battles in her mind, she still turned a family into Christian people and gave them hope of a better life. I still don't understand how she was able to have all that left in her, even when she was losing everything she had ever gained. Words would leave her abandoned in mid-sentences. Names would slip past her as she would call me Matthew. The memories would permanently fade away. We were eating something we had just had the other night, and she would get ready to take a bite, saying, "I haven't had something like this in a long time," getting excited. I wonder what conversations we would have now if she was still here. I have all these questions that will never be answered, like, why did you stay with your husband when he was always physically and emotionally abusive to you? I would be eating breakfast as I would hear him yelling in your face, telling you about how crazy you were, that you were nothing, that you were, in quotes, nuttier than a fruitcake. He would tell you horrible things all the time over something that you couldn't even help, but yet you still stayed with him. Why? You even saved his life when he had that heart attack. You could have been free. You could have said that you found him laying there and called hours later knowing he would have been gone, but yet you didn't, even after all that he put you through. You saved your abuser, but yet he couldn't even take care of you. He couldn't even play along when it came to the people that you thought were truly there. Instead, he would yell at you, telling you how crazy you were. And Memo, you weren't ever crazy. It tears me apart to know that someone that was losing their mind could have a better heart than someone in their right state of mind. If you were still living, would you be proud of who I am right now? I got a job days after my birthday. My parents got me a car and I'm paying for insurance. I'm now a sophomore in high school, but I still don't have many friends. I used to blame myself, but now I realize it's just how people are. They let time and stress get the best of them, while others just want to use people rather than have a real friendship. I'm focusing on my goals and dreams, but it gets difficult. There's a lot that I still want to say and share with people about you, but I want to take it one step at a time, so I'm going to go for now. There's one thing I always want you to remember, Nemo. Even with the struggles you faced and being in constant physical pain because of your back surgery that went wrong, causing tons of blood loss to your brain and caused your dementia, which led to Alzheimer's, you were still and always will be a huge example to me. Though you're gone, your spirit will always be with me. One day I'll tell your story, at least the parts I experienced with you from beginning to end, but for now, this is how far I can go. People can think all they want, but we know what truly happened. Make that choir brighter than ever, Memo. I'll meet you by the golden gates one day. And now I'm just going to kind of try and explain. Imagine people that aren't really there, but to you, they're really there. So picture bringing in a family, and you give them a room, you give them a place to stay, you give them food, you treat their kids as if they're your own kids, your own grandkids, and they start stealing from you. And instead of kicking them out, you just hide your valuables, the things that are the most important to you, and you hide them somewhere, but you forget where you hid them because of the disease that you have, so you never find them again. And picture still having all that hope left inside you as your husband's in your face, yelling at you, telling you how insane you are over something that you can't even help, when he's supposed to be the one that's there for you the most out of anybody in this world. And yet he's sitting there telling you how worthless you are because of a disease that you can't help. But you still somehow keep all that hope to lead another family into believing in God, and then the dad leaves with his family and becomes a pastor of a church, while you stay there in the same physical and emotional condition that you're in, and still dealing with an abusive husband that you still love unconditionally when he didn't unconditionally love you. How is someone that's not in the right state of mind? I'm about to sneeze. I'm sorry. How is someone that is not in the right state of mind have a pure and true heart, while someone who is in the right state of mind doesn't? That's what tears me apart. Even when she was losing everything she ever remembered or earned in her life was leaving her slowly. Even the names of people that she cared about and was her family, like when she started calling me Matthew instead of Jordan. And you still keep all that hope and faith and believe that God's there for you. And maybe he really is, because I know that if he is, she's up there right now. And she'd always tell me, Jordan, and this was before she called me Matthew, but she'd say, Jordan, you're going to be my little preacher boy one day. Because we'd always go to her house after church. Because our church that we all went to with my family and my myyy was right close to their house. We go over there for a couple minutes and drive back home. And I had my little suit, my tuxedo. And she always told me, you're going to be my little preacher boy. And then when I was at another church a couple years later, someone was looking at me, staring at me. And they said, I could see you, and one day you're going to be a preacher. And I thought it was weird. And then a couple years later after that, a woman was looking at me, praying with me and my mom when we were all going to church. And she touched me right here. And she stared at me for a second, at least 7 seconds straight, so it was a little awkward. But then she said, you're going to be a preacher or a missionary one day. And so even when she was going through all that and God wasn't helping her, at least in an effective way that I saw would be an effective way, it makes me think truly that God is real. And it leaves me with this guilt if I don't try to live the life that God wants me to live, because of who my myyy was and what she wanted me to live. And I look at myself now and I think, would she be proud of what I've become? And honestly, I don't know. Like, if she saw me for who I am now, what would she think? What would she say? And I always wonder, what kind of conversations will we have now? Imagine she didn't have Alzheimer's and she was able to talk 100% completely and understand. And we had a conversation about the Bible, or even her as a kid, because I don't know anything about her when she was little and what kind of life she had growing up. I missed out on a lot of stuff because of what a doctor did to her. She was having back surgery, and the doctor had cut something in the wrong spot, and she was bleeding a lot, and she lost a lot of oxygen and blood to her brain, which caused her to get dementia, which led to Alzheimer's, which led to her slowly losing who she was. And the hardest thing about it is I was there for all of it, because whenever my parents and I would get into a fight, we'd be like, all right, let's just get some time away from each other. I'll go to myyy for a while. And, so I go out there because it would be like on summer break or spring break. I'd go out on summer break for at least 1-2 weeks, spend some time with her. And I always felt when I wasn't wanted here at home, I was always accepted and wanted over there. And I never had friends. I still don't really have friends. And she was always not just a grandmother to me, but a friend. And I always had a lot of good memories with her that I know she was still alive, and with the condition that she's in and has, she wouldn't remember them either. And if she is looking down, which I don't think even if heaven was real, people could look down and see it, because in heaven everything's perfect, so there'd be no evil or sadness. So if you saw what's on the earth, you'd be sad. But unrealistically, she was looking down. I often wonder, would she be proud of what I've become, and would she like who I am now? And even in some way, I don't fully understand who I am yet either. It's something you gotta decide for yourself and find. And one thing that she left behind, because I asked her husband when I was searching in the Bible, because I knew that's what she wanted, because I couldn't ask her who she actually was, or stories. She couldn't tell me stories, so I couldn't pick up on what characteristics she had. But what I've seen, she's an amazing person that always had faith and hope in God and always lived off the Bible. And so I asked him if he could send me some things that she left notes in her Bible of. And what was it called? One of the things that she had in her Bible was, I believe, Proverbs. Proverbs. And she put in the Bible that how you should live as a Christian. And that had to have had a huge influence on who she was throughout her entire life. Even when she had Alzheimer's, that's still who she was. She was trying to do her best to live as a Christian, because she truly believed in her heart that that was the right way to live. And that's the passion that a lot of us are missing today, is even when you're slowly losing your mind, that passion you have, the way you want to live, that righteousness is still in your mind even when you're slowly losing it. That's the one thing that stays until the day you actually pass away. And that's something a lot of people are missing. And that's why I respect my Mema so much, because she held on to that until the day she passed away. And even now she's singing up there on that choir in the Golden Streets. And for you guys to understand everything, I'd have to tell you the story in every single detail. And maybe one day I'm going to do that. Maybe one day I'll write a story about it, telling it from how I've seen it and conversations that we did have. But until then, this is all I can say, is that my Mema, even when she wasn't in her right state of mind, was an amazing person with a pure and true heart that cared about everyone else, and that brought strangers into her house, kept them there even when they were stealing her stuff, and turned them into Christians, and turned their father into a pastor. And if that's not good enough for you, then I don't know what is. Had to deal with an emotionally and physically abusive husband, even with Alzheimer's, and even without it, her entire life, but she still loved him unconditionally. If you don't think a woman like that is an amazing person just off of those things, then I don't know what you think an amazing person is. But if there's one thing, my Mema will always be with me in spirit. And that's the only thing that matters. And she plays a huge part in who I am. And the only way I can find out who she was now, piece by piece, and figure out who she really was deep inside, because I never wondered that when I was 11, 12. And I got to search within the Bible and Proverbs and different things that she had marked in her Bible to figure out what was her biggest role model for the person that she was. And one day I'll get closer and closer to finding that out. Because if there's somebody I want to be like, it would be like my mom, my dad, and my Mema. Those are the three most important people in my life, and they always will be. Because they've left such a good example on me of what someone should be and how you should live your life. And so I know that my Mema can't hear me now, but if she was right here in front of me, I'd hug her and let her know that she showed me how to be, and I'm going to strive to be that person every day. no matter how hard it gets, because I'm tired of wondering. It should be proud of me. And no matter what, she'll always be with me in spirit. And until the day I see her again, she knows I love her and she'll never be forgotten. And the crazy thing is she passed away right around spring, which was her favorite time of the year because she loved the garden. And the flowers this morning just sprung open. So it was really cool because it's the flowers that we got at her funeral too. So, meanwhile, I want you to know that I've never forgotten you and you're still here now. And you're still walking with me every step of the way. I love you and rest in peace.